Welcome back to From the Shed End podcast with myself, T.Dot. As always, thank you very much for joining me. Now, before we get into the content, please smash that subscribe button. As you can see right there, we have all our social accounts at the bottom as well. And also, if you go to Spotify or Apple Podcasts, search From the Shed End, you'll be able to go back and listen to all our podcast episodes that we've done previously. Now, I did do a video yesterday where I was a bit peed off. If we were going to be honest, I wasn't very happy with the performance against Manchester United, also against Brentford. But I do think this is our opportunity to dig deep and get a good result here against RB Salzburg, who, let's have it right, is a really good team. I think they've won the Bundesliga in Austria since 2014. They finished top. I think one season they scored 110 goals. They're no pushover. Yes, the Austrian league is nothing like the Premier League, but they're no pushover. And if we go back to the first game at Stamford Bridge, Graham Potter's first game in charge, I think it was 1-1. And then we dominated possession. We had over 70% of the ball. I think 17 shots, 4 on target. You know, we played well. We played well, you know, for Graham Potter's first game in charge. But I do think this game is going to be a totally different ball game as to what we got to see at Stamford Bridge. I think Salzburg will be up for this game. They know just as much as we do that they have a good chance of getting out of the group if they can beat us tonight as well. So they're gonna be up for this game 100%. And you know, I think we need to be on the ball. I think obviously Graham Potter, like I said in the previous video, still unbeaten. There's some good signs. I'm liking what I'm seeing tactically. You know, the urgency, that pressing is there at times with us, but it's just not good enough all the time. We're not doing some of the basic things right, first of all. And when we do things well, we only do it in spells of the game. We're not doing it consistently throughout the 90 minutes. So I think there's a lot that we can take away from how Graham Potter set us up over the last 4 to 5 weeks as Chelsea manager. But I still think there's another level or another couple of levels that we need to get to be able to consistently play the way that Graham Potter wants us to play. Now, the press conference was held yesterday. Strangely, there was no real team news that came out of it, although we do know that Koulibaly hasn't travelled due to a slight injury that he picked up ahead of the Man United game, hence why he never played. But Cucurella is another strange one. I think I think from discussions that have been had in the press with Graham Potter, I don't think Cucurella is 100%. He wasn't 100% against Manchester United. He did say it was a tactical substitution, but I don't think Cucurella, I think he lost 5 kilos or something, or 5 pounds. I can't remember what it was, but he lost some weight anyway, and he's not been well. He was obviously in hospital for some time as well at the start of the month, but he's gone with the squad, so that's good. I look at the team, I look at the way that Graham Potter might set up as opposed to what he did against Manchester United. I do think there will be rotation tonight. I think there'll be some key players that may not even you would expect to see in the team might not start. Me personally, I said in a previous video, it didn't make sense with no Reece James. Using Cucurella as a centre-back didn't work. I would revert back to a back four, in my opinion, and maybe utilise that extra body in midfield going forward as well, as an attacking option more offensively. I think against Salzburg, who, if you remember, Sesko was one of their key players. I think he got the goal last time as well. He's a really good player for Salzburg as well. So we need to try and retain him, keep him quiet throughout the game. But I do think we've got the quality. We've got the quality off the bench. We've got the quality on the pitch that can do damage. And if we win this game, it gives us that breathing space going into the final group stage match against Dinamo Zagreb, where we can potentially rest a couple of players. And obviously we have Brighton to think about at the weekend as well. So I do think Graham Potter will rotate the squad. He will maybe change and mix things up. Hopefully not too much, because I think when he tinkers with the squad too much, it does disrupt that harmony that he's trying to build and get that consistency going with some of the players. But I do think going back to a back four will potentially suit us in this game. The extra body in midfield. I think back to the United game. I mean, Azpilicueta, we know isn't as good going forward. Neither is Cucurella or Chilwell. I think both of them have been fairly inconsistent throughout their time this season. Neither one has been better than the other. So I think, in my opinion, I think we'll get onto the squad in a minute, but in my opinion, going back to that back four, it just means defensively you're not asking too much of Azpilicueta or Chilwell or Cucurella, whoever you play on that left side as well. Obviously, I expect to see Trevor Chalobah in that team tonight because I think he's someone that, as I keep saying, we need to try and cement into the team. Obviously, Koulibaly hasn't travelled, and if he does go to a back five, I would expect to see Aspilicueta as a centre back as opposed to a right wing back, which then means you're probably going to have to use Ruben Loftus-Cheek as your right wing back, which then takes him out of that midfield, which is where I feel the game will be won tonight as well. But it's going to be a difficult game. Obviously, you know, we've done the hard part by beating Milan back to back. Two big crucial games that we needed to win. We have the opportunity here to go top of the group, to go through to the next round, and hopefully give ourselves a better option of getting a more suitable team to play in the next stage of the Champions League. Obviously, if you want to win the Champions League, you have to play the best. So, you know, you will meet them at some point. But ideally, you want to get to the semi-finals, the finals, the quarterfinals before you start playing some of those harder teams, the more difficult teams. But let's go straight on to the team that I would pick tonight and who I would go with. Obviously, Kepa. It's a no-brainer. I think he's proven himself over the last couple of weeks that he should retain his place in goal. Obviously, it's unfortunate for Mendy, but you know these are the circumstances that you find yourself in. You know, when you're a goalkeeper, if you get injured or you drop a bit of form, it just opens the door for someone else to come in. And Kepa, for me, like I said, you know, over the weekend against Manchester United and especially against Brentford, he kept us in the game, and he's showing true commitment to being arguably our best goalkeeper at the club at the moment. So I'd go with Kepa in goal. As I mentioned, I'd go with a back four tonight. I think this will give us the best option, in my opinion, to try and win the game. I'd go with Cesar Aspilicueta, the only player really that you can have in that position. And if you do want to play Aspilicueta as a right wing back, then I think it opens us up for a lot of trouble. It opens us up with a lot of trouble. So I think Aspilicueta for me is more suited as a right back. The same with Ben Chilwell, who I've gone with, just from what Graham Potter and what's come out of the Chelsea camp over the last couple of days around Cucurella not being 100%, being hooked off the last two games as well, tells you that there's more than just a tactical issue with him. Potentially he's not fully fit or he's not 100% to play the game. But I would go with Ben Chilwell. I think even as a left back, he offers you more going forward at times as well. And he does, you know, a couple of seasons ago, he was helping chip in with some of the goals as well. So I think he would be my other option on the left side. I would go with him as the left back. Now, a no-brainer, Thiago Silva and Trevor Chalobah will be my two centre-backs. I think they're slowly building up a really good partnership as centre-back partnerships go. I think, you know, Silva with the experience, Trevor Chalobah learning from, you know, the likes of Thiago Silva and Koulibaly and Aspilicueta. But I think Trevor Chalobah has been standout for us this season so far alongside Thiago Silva. I think this is a game which potentially we have to play him. You know, obviously Koulibaly's not travelled. It limits our options. I think even in the United game, we didn't have any defenders on the bench. So it limits us to who we can play. One thing it does do, and as I've said this before in previous matches, if we do want to revert back to that back five, you know, I would love to see it almost similar to this. I would have maybe Silva as the middle centre back, bring Ruben Loftus-Cheek here, you know, maybe drop Mason Mount into this area here. You know, again, it doesn't suit Mason Mount to play so deep, you know, in that midfield. But I think if this is the option, if we, you know, we're 2-0 down, and we're trying to just control the game a bit more, I think it gives you the option to do that. It gives you the option to do that on the pitch and not having to make those subs. So I think for me personally, Ruben Loftus-Cheek, if needed, can play right wing back and can change that game for us as well. From that right wing back position, he does do well sometimes in there, but I do feel like he's most effective in midfield. And I think Kovacic, Ruben Loftus-Cheek would be the most sensible option to go for in a midfield too. I thought Jorginho defensively was exposed against Manchester United, and I feel that he offensively at times is really good. He can carry the ball. He can try and get the ball a bit, you know, in those transition phases of play. He's good at doing that. But I just think as a defender, in terms of his defensive work, it's non-existent at times. So I think to have Kovacic and Ruben Loftus-Cheek in that midfield, I think that will benefit us going forward and defensively as well. You know, I always say this here, but I think Kovacic does a lot of that dirty work, the leg work, you know, gets that ball forward, looks for that forward pass, and I think Kovacic does that a lot. The same with Ruben Loftus-Cheek, but as the games are progressing and we're seeing Ruben Loftus-Cheek playing a bit more, he's defensively better for me in terms of what he can offer in midfield. So I'd go with that two of midfield of Kovacic and Ruben Loftus-Cheek, who again thought had a really good game at the weekend. My front three that I've kind of gone for that will sit just behind Aubameyang is Christian Pulisic and Hakim Ziyech on the left and the right side, with Mason Mount in the middle. The reason I've gone for that three, now I know people will be screaming for Chukwuemeka to come into this into the team tonight. I think he's definitely an option off the bench. I think ideally we want to go into this game and get an early goal, maybe 2 goals before half time, or at least a goal before half time, and, you know, press on from the second half. But I think, yes, we need to think about Brighton, which is a game that I would probably expect Cucurella to play in, hence why I've gone for Chilwell as well. But I think if we can get a goal early, it allows the likes of Mason Mount to come off. It allows the likes of Hakim Ziyech, who's missed a lot of football, for us to potentially play, 90, if not, the whole game. He can play a massive chunk of the game. And I think Christian Pulisic, when he comes on, there's flashes of him that he can do something well. He can take on defenders. He can get the ball into the box. And I think these kind of games, he is needed. And I think it allows the likes of Kai Havertz, who hasn't been performing at his best. It allows the likes of Raheem Sterling, who, again, has kind of dipped off the last couple of games. It gives them an opportunity to have a rest or to bring them on, maybe be an impact from the bench in a game like this as well. And I think Hakim Ziyech, I think he's got a point to prove. He's got mixed opinions from the fan base as well. But I think he can offer something in this game. Maybe feeding them balls into Mason Mount and Patrick Aubameyang as well. Mason Mount, I've gone through the middle just for the consistency with the link up with Aubameyang. And I think Mason Mount has improved over the last couple of games. He's proven that he's more better suited, played in that more central midfield role, the attacking that 10 role, which he plays really well, as opposed to playing on the right or the left side, which you've seen a few times in the Graham Potter. I think if he's playing through just behind Aubameyang, he's more effective. He can cause a lot more chaos for the defenders for Salzburg as well, playing in that position. But Aubameyang up front, now this is, again, it was a difficult one, because you could either put Brozier there. I was impressed with Brozier against Brentford. I thought he played really well, his first start for Chelsea. But again, if we're trying to top the group, we're trying to get the points, we're trying to get a good result out of this game, I feel like we've got to go with a bit more of that consistency. So I've tried to rotate where possible, but keep Mason Mount, Loftus-Cheek, Kovacic, Aubameyang, Silva, Chalobah, Kepa. I've tried to keep the spine as it is throughout the team, and maybe rotate the left and the right side a little bit in terms of Hakim Ziyech and Christian Pulisic. But I think Aubameyang, again, had a really poor game against Manchester United, but he's got to prove himself. And he had back-to-back goals prior to the Brentford game, prior to the United game. He's got to prove himself, and he's got to do well. In my opinion, tonight he's got to prove himself, and he's got to get on that score sheet. He's been brought in as the number 9. He's got to know where the back of the net is. He's got to score goals. That's his job. So I think I would go with that as my lineup. Again, like I said, Salzburg will not be a pushover. They're a really good team. As I said, they've won the Bundesliga in Austria for since 2014. No other team has beaten them to the league, and we know how difficult they can be. We know how difficult they can be in terms of the way that they play. The way that they played against us at Stamford Bridge, I thought they were impressive as well. So I do think we have to guard against complacency against them. And obviously, it's not down and out if we don't win. If we don't win the game, it's not the all and end all of it. We still have Dinamo Zagreb to come, but it will be interesting watching AC Milan and Zagreb tonight. Obviously, we're on early. I think we're on at 5:45 tonight, so early kick-off for us. We'll know the result before we get to watch AC Milan and Zagreb, but we really need to go into this game front foot. Need to get the first goal, preferably really early into the game, set the tone of the game, and go on from there. And I think you can bring on the likes of Raheem Sterling or Chukwuemeka. Conor Gallagher's another one that I could potentially see coming into the team at some point as well. Armando Broja as well. So there's a lot of quality, a lot of depth that we can bring off the bench, providing that we're winning the game. I don't want to see these changes that we're making half an hour into the game or at half time if it's not going to be effective. So I think we need to if we're going to bring on Kai Havertz, we need to be in a position where we can see the game out, which is what I spoke about against Manchester United. One of the things that we didn't do was see that game out. So, I think we need to see the game out. We need to hit the ground running. We need an early goal to potentially just to calm the game down and set it to our pace, how we want to play. But Salzburg would have been, like I said, been no pushover. I'm expecting us to win. I'm going to go 2-1, just because I think, we'll get the goals, we'll get the points. But I do think, like I said, Salzburg are a really good team. They know how to score goals. Attacking wise, they've got some quality players there as well. So I think they will score. But I think if we can get that early goal, and even if we do go to 1-1, we just need to dig deep and get another goal, get the result. And, it takes the pressure off the last game against Zagreb if we do that. And also it allows Graham Potter to maybe just rotate during the game with Brighton in mind at the weekend as well. But let me know your thoughts in the comments. Let me know what lineup you would go with, and do you agree with my lineup? What do you think the score is going to be tonight as well? Don't forget to subscribe to the channel, smash that like button as well, and of course, like I said, hit the Linktree link in the description. It'll take you to all the podcasts and all our social accounts as well. This has been T.Dot from the Shed End. Until next time, stay safe and thank you very much for watching.